Hello and welcome to another video from me, this tutor. In this video we're going to be looking at Britain, Health and the People for the AQA exam board, GCSE studies, and we're going to be looking at surgery in Renaissance time, particularly focusing on Vesalius and some source skills. Okay, so in this video we're going to be looking at the source question, question 1 in your AQA exam. And we're looking at Andreas Vesalius and a source around this. So find the source question in your revision guide and start to revise your knowledge. We're going to have a quick quiz in a moment, and then we're going to develop your source skills. Okay, so here is our quiz. Now, this quiz has lots of facts about the big three individuals of the Renaissance era, but which ones are about Andreas Vesalius? So have a read through them in your revision guide and see if you can highlight or circle the ones that are Andreas Vesalius. And as a little extension, if they're not him, who are they? Okay, so here are the answers then. Vesalius then obviously is around anatomy or surgery, so we're looking for all the ideas about how he is developing anatomy, but not the circulatory system ones. His book he wrote about all his anatomical studies was the fabric of the human body. Obviously he proved Galen wrong 200 times about the human body, and one of those he proved him wrong about the jawbone was one bone and not two, and to do his experiments he stole human bodies to dissect. So what about the other ones? Well, he used ligatures to sew wounds, that's pare. He used ancient herbal oil for gunshot wounds, that's pare. He wrote works on surgery, well, that's pare. He was a barber surgeon in Paris, that's pare. And he explained the circulatory system and proved the heart was a pump, that is Harvey. So hopefully you got all those right and you worked out your ideas. So let's now think about our source question then, shall we? So here is the question. As you know, source questions are question 1. So the question says, how useful a source aid is stored in studying the improvements made to surgery in Britain in the 15 and 1600s? Use source A in your knowledge to explain your answer. Have a look at this question in your revision guide and now consider what makes a good answer. Consider the success criteria. You may have already done this with your medieval source question, but maybe just remind yourself what makes the success criteria for this question. Have a look at words like how useful and use your contextual knowledge. So list your ideas now. Okay, so here's the ideas then. So again, similar to the how useful source question we did for the medieval question. So we need to make a point about how useful the source is. The source is very useful because you need to use the source, give some evidence from the source. So describe what you see or suggest a message from the source in your evidence section. Then give reasons why the source is useful or not useful and explain this with your knowledge. So this is useful because, give a reason and then explain with knowledge of the events. Explain ideas, 2 ideas from the content to get yourself 6 marks. And if you want top marks, explain a content idea and a provenance idea. You need to round it all off with a conclusion that says, how useful is it? Okay, then let's start planning our response then. So take a look at the picture source and pick out some messages that you can back up with your knowledge, but also have a think about the provenance for if you want to go for top marks. Think about who wrote it, when they wrote it, why they wrote it, etc. to come up with some ideas. All these ideas should be considering knowledge to back them up. So in your revision guide, start to note down some of your ideas. Pause now and away you go. Okay, so here's my ideas then. So obviously the source suggests knowledge of anatomy is improving. It's got a picture clearly of the human body. And we know that Vesalius dissected human bodies and proved Galen wrong because Galen had used animal bodies. He found 200 errors, including things like the jawbone and the septum, etc. So this work obviously then inspired people like Harvey to learn about the circulatory system. So we've got lots of knowledge to back up that idea. We could talk about his limited impact at the time. People were slow to accept his ideas. We could use obviously the provenance here. The Christian church dominated this time. People didn't want Galen's ideas questioned, and so Vesalius' ideas were not totally supported. Also, people didn't find his ideas very useful at this time because surgery wasn't that developed. They didn't have anaesthetics, didn't have antiseptics. Surgery was really poor. So knowing more about the body didn't really impact things hugely at this time. So there's some really good arguments we could make about this. So how do we structure this answer? So source A is quite useful or very useful, and then linked to the question would be a really good way of starting your point with a nice argument. So we might then say it's very useful about improvements made to surgery because obviously Galen is becoming less useful because of this. Then give some ideas of what you see in the source or the provenance. So for example, the content shows obviously the picture of the human body, or we could reference the provenance at this stage if you want to. Then explain. This is useful about improvements made to surgery because, and give an opinion backed up with lots of facts and information. We could then do a furthermore or a however, particularly if we're aiming to give 2 content responses to guarantee our 6 marks. It's really important we give a furthermore or a however at this stage. Let's go through this now, shall we? Okay, let's have a go at the content paragraph. Source A is very useful or partly useful about the improvement made to surgery because, so give a reason now about why you think it's important. I'd suggest maybe have a think about Galen there in your idea for a good reason why. So pause now and away you go. Okay, so I've said source A is very useful about the improvement made to surgery because it shows that the knowledge of anatomy did improve during this time by criticising Galen's ideas. Okay, so we now need some evidence from the content, so we need to describe what we see in 1 sentence. So for example, describe what you see. If you want to use the word suggest, then go for that as well, but keep it limited in what you're writing. Okay, so I've said, for example, the content shows the muscular system drawn in detail. This suggests that Vesalius had an excellent understanding of anatomy. Okay, so now we need to explain. So therefore, the source is useful about the improvement made to surgery because we need to give an opinion with some knowledge. So away you go with your ideas. Okay, so I've said, therefore, this is useful about the improvement made to surgery because Vesalius dissected humans to discover detailed anatomy of the body. This improved surgeries to prove Galen wrong over 200 times. For instance, the jawbone was 1 bone and not 2. So Vesalius' book was translated by Geminus and used in Britain, which meant that surgeons in Britain could now perform more accurate surgery with more accurate knowledge of the body. Okay, so a really detailed response there, and I've referenced the question about Britain as well, which is really important with my Geminus knowledge, which was taken from the provenance, but I think candidates should maybe know that before they arrive in the exam as well. Now, to guarantee our 6 marks, we want an extra content idea. Okay, so pause me now and think of an extra idea. So furthermore, the content is useful because, or however, it's not useful because, give an idea. Okay, so I've said, furthermore, source content is useful because surgeons realised that they had to continue to criticise the work of Galen to improve their knowledge. So this inspired William Harvey, obviously, and the development of the circulatory system. So give a little explanation around that. Now, if you're going for top marks, you want a second paragraph or a pointer about provenance explained. It could be your furthermore in your previous paragraph if you're confident enough to do so. So we're then going to say source A is also quite useful or very useful about improvement surgery because we're going to give a provenance evidence and then explain the impact of that. We don't need a peel paragraph here, we just need a nicely explained provenance idea. Provenance is a more complicated skill, so the exam board is happy to see a more simplistic explanation, but we should try and use a little bit of knowledge about the dates or the people or the events discussed in the provenance. So pause now and give a provenance paragraph a go. Okay, so here's my idea. So I've said source A is very useful about the improvement made to surgery because it shows the ideas spread rapidly as surgeons wanted to improve. For example, the provenance shows that Vesalius' work spread to England by 1553 and was translated into English. This is useful about the improvements made to surgery because it shows that Vesalius' ideas were quickly accepted and spread within 10 years. This shows that surgeons in England wanted to improve and that they were happy to challenge the ideas of Galen. You could have done a however argument that's not so useful because obviously there was a limit to his success in this time period, and we know that in this time period people were very Christian and they didn't accept his ideas straight away. So you've got that alternative argument you could have made as well. So finally you need to just wrap up your answer with a short conclusion, just 1 sentence. In conclusion, this is very useful because it will wrap up your argument. Okay, well, I hope you found that video useful, and if you did, then do have a look at my revision guide and look to buy it. You can see it in the Amazon link in the YouTube information, and also do subscribe for more videos. There's lots more help out there with all sorts of AQA topics so you can be successful in your exam. Okay, hope to see you again soon. Bye for now.